on Sunday. There may be a few that persist into Monday, but we expect to have the overwhelming majority finished by Sunday night. I want to talk a little bit really quickly just about the restoration process being underway from last night, and I also want to just provide a little bit of additional context. We had some of the most violent and dangerous winds that Colorado has ever seen, coupled with low relative humidity in the single digits, coupled with very dry conditions that created what the National Weather Service, for the first time in Colorado, referred to as a particularly dangerous situation, which means that if a spark hit the ground, it would have created and potentially created a very explosive fire very, very quickly. We de-energized on Wednesday about 40,000 customers. We had upwards of 200,000 customers that were out on Wednesday from the Wednesday wind event. We were able to get upwards of 90% of those customers restored by Thursday night. That was in a 24-hour period. We were able to get over 200,000 customers back in power Thursday night from the wind event. Once those winds subsided on Thursday, we knew that there was another wind event coming in on Friday, and that's why we worked very diligently to get the Wednesday customers back in power. So we know that the National Weather Service, the red flag warning, the particularly dangerous situation, created the need to proactively de-energize these customers in order to prevent a wildfire from happening. This was a public safety measure. We're in Evergreen right now, and we are at the Evergreen Fire Station, where we've set up a customer resource center. We recognize that being without power works a hardship for some of our customers, which is why we wanted to work in partnership with the Red Cross to create the community resource centers so that customers could have places to charge their devices, get coffee, get water. So I want to thank, first of all, my coworkers, the men and women who are out diligently working to get everybody's power back on. They've been working around the clock diligently to do that. I also want to thank the Red Cross for their partnership. I want to thank the city of Evergreen and our other counties that we've worked with to create customer resource centers. And I want to thank our customers for their grace and patience in please understanding that we took this measure as a way of mitigating the risk of a catastrophic and deadly wildfire. So let me pause there and see if there are questions from our media partners.
Well, I was just wondering, I know the governor put out a statement sort of criticizing Xcel's communication during this whole power shutoff.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if Xcel sort of has a response to his statement.
Yeah, we responded to the governor's statement, and I'll say that it was unfortunate and it was uninformed. We started communications with our customers, our counties, and other stakeholders before the Wednesday event. We began communicating with our customers as early as the 13th and the 14th. We began communications with our offices of emergency management, with our other stakeholders, with the state office of emergency management. We did mass communications to our customers in particular, our medically qualified customers, all of our customers that were going to be impacted through press releases, IVRs, which stands for interactive voice recordings, social media posts, web page updates. We had over 20 direct customer communications and over 43 mass communications. We've been doing calls 3 times a day with the offices of emergency management to let them know the status of the wind, to let them know the status of the de-energization, to let them know the status of the damage that we were seeing, and to keep them apprised. We were doing those calls 3 times a day. So I thought the governor's statement about our communications was unfortunate and didn't reflect, I think, an assessment of the full facts. Having said that, we know that there's always room for improvement, and we will do an after-action review to assess where we have opportunities to improve, because we never want to rest on our laurels and we never want to be satisfied, so we're always striving to do better. But in the moment, right now, our focus has been on keeping the public safe and getting our customers restored as quickly as possible. And I think the time for critique and criticism will come later.
We've talked to a lot of business owners this past week and how they've experienced loss due to the power shutdowns. Do you have any response to them about how you might be able to support them in the future?
Well, a couple things we do know is that when we make the decision to proactively de-energize, We only do that when the most extreme weather conditions exist. So high winds, low relative humidity, and low fuel on the ground. We have high winds all the time, and we don't proactively de-energize. So it's only when the most extreme weather conditions exist. There's a claim process if customers want to make claims, and that's available on our website. So my point is that we only use this as a tool when the most extreme weather conditions exist, and we don't take lightly doing it, but we are doing this to protect the public. And we have to balance risks. We know that the potential risk for a catastrophic wildfire was extreme and high, and so that has to be our first focus, is keeping the public safe, getting customers restored, and keeping our customers and those businesses themselves safe as well.
Was this a learning experience from the Marshall Fire?
Well, I don't know what you mean by a learning experience, but what I will say is this doesn't have anything to do with the Marshall Fire. We did this as a public safety measure. This was a public safety measure. We did this because high winds, coupled with low relative humidity, coupled with dry fuels on the ground, created a particularly dangerous situation. And the particularly dangerous situation from the National Weather Service means that there's a heightened risk to human health and safety. So that's why we did it. There's no relationship between this and the Marshall Fire.
What time were crews able to start inspecting, starting their restoration process, and how they were able to work on this?
Some of it started last night, and then it started again this morning at first light. We can't fly helicopters and drones at night, and we can't fly helicopters and drones until the weather subsides, but we did have people on the ground beginning those inspections last night. Our crews have been working over the last several days, 16-hour shifts. We have to be mindful of their safety as well, and so they did go home and get rest and then started back up at first light. It's very difficult during the dark to be able to assess damage, and so we want to make sure that when we're assessing damage, that we're assessing damage correctly. And so at first light, they were back at it, and they will be back at it all day around the clock.
Go home at 11:30, back at 7 a.m.
Roughly 11:30, back, actually we started probably at 6 this morning.
You mentioned maybe some areas,
Sorry.
you mentioned some areas might have to wait until Monday. Are there specific regions or areas that you expect you'll have to wait the longest?
I don't, and some of that will depend upon the nature and extent of the damages. We have to inspect poles, we have to inspect downed wires and cross arms, and so it depends on the nature of the damage. We are prioritizing getting as many customers as we can. So people were asking, how do you prioritize it? We prioritize it based upon, where's the most number of customers that we can get restored. But we are working throughout the service territory. We expect to have many customers back on by 10 o'clock tonight, and we'll have a big chunk on again tomorrow. And I would imagine if this persists into Monday, it will be a small number. I can't give you specific geographic locations, but I can say, like I said, the Wednesday event, we got 200,000 customers back on in a 24-hour period. And if you know the industry, I can't say enough about the men and women that have been working around the clock. What they did was no less than heroic. It was no less than remarkable that they were able to get our customers. And just to be very clear, those are their family, friends, and neighbors. And the folks that are working for Xcel are your family, friends, and neighbors, and they are working as diligently as they possibly can to get their family, friends, and neighbors back in power.
That's gonna be about it, guys, so sorry. We got one more question.
This is only the second time, or this week was only the second time that Xcel implemented a PSPS. What have you learned anything from this experience? If so, what's that?
So we learned several things, and from the April 2024 experience to today, we did a significant amount of listening to our customers, to our elected officials, to the Public Utilities Commission. We knew that we had a lot of work to do to improve our communication, and I would argue that our communication from then to now has markedly improved and increased. We know that customers want information early, they want accurate information, they want it frequently. We also, from April to today, stood up community resource centers. There's nothing like being in your own home, of course, but we wanted to make sure that to the extent that we were able to provide some measure of comfort and convenience for customers, that would be something that we needed to work on. We will continue doing that. We'll do an after-action review after this, and we'll learn more for if and when we need to do the next one. The other thing I'll say is that you pointed out this is only the second time we've done that. That doesn't mean that there hasn't been wildfire risk all that time. It means that we've also used the other tools in our toolbox. We've changed the settings on our power line so that if something comes into contact with the power line, they trip and don't re-energize. Most folks don't even know that that happens because we get out and fix it very quickly. We're also in the process of implementing and executing against our wildfire mitigation plan. So we're doing system hardening and strengthening, which means replacing bare conductor, the wires that move the electrons, replacing those conductors with more robust conductor, replacing poles and wires with stronger poles and wires, and yes, doing targeted undergrounding in certain places where it makes sense. So this is only one tool. We have many other tools available to us that we're working all year round to mitigate the risk of wildfire.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for your grace. Thanks for your grace and patience.
I've got a question. I've got underground power and I still don't have power.
So I'll give you an explanation. I don't know your specific address.